This is Annie from Prep Scholar. In this lesson, we're going to give you some tips for the TOEFL listening section. Specifically, we're going to talk about a kind of question that asks why a lecturer or one of the participants in the conversation makes a certain remark. These are officially called understanding the function of what is said questions, but we're just going to call them why is this said questions. We call them that because these questions ask us why a speaker in a recording made a certain remark, such as mentioning some detail or asking some question. These questions won't ask what a speaker said. They'll ask why he or she said it. That is, they'll ask for the purpose or the meaning of a remark. Now, when we're answering questions on the listening section, we'll normally have to depend on the notes we took. But why is the said questions are different. Usually, in these questions, the part of the conversation where the remark was made will be played back for us. This means that we can answer these questions correctly without needing to use our notes on the original recording. So, these questions can be really simple to answer as long as we know how to approach them correctly. This lesson will explain how to do that. Let's talk about how these questions work. Normally, a why is this said question has two parts. First, a narrator will say something like this.
Listen again to a part of the conversation, then answer the question.
After that, you will hear a recording, which will be part of the original recording, like this.
Hi, I'm looking for a textbook. For Professor Barton's class, I think it's called Principles of Calculus. It's for Math 805. Do you know where I could find it?
All the math textbooks are kept in the back of the store.
Then you will read a question like,
why does the woman say this?
That will be followed by a second recording like this.
All the math textbooks are kept in the back of the store.
And then you will have a choice of 4 answer choices, just like on the other listening questions. Before discussing the answer choices, let's talk a little more about how to answer a question like this. We pointed out that why is this said questions aren't asking us what a speaker says. They're asking us why she says it. So how are we supposed to figure that out? The answer is almost always by looking at the context. In a why is this said question, the lines immediately before and after the speaker's remark will be an important clue to why he or she makes a certain remark. Since those lines are usually included in the recording that is played with the question usually gives the information we need to answer it, as long as we pay attention. With that in mind, let's think about the question we heard. How should we answer this question? That's right, we should pay attention to the context. The woman is responding to a question the man asks, so what she says is probably an answer to that question. He's asking where a textbook is, so she's probably telling him where the textbook is. So the answer is probably something like that, in order to tell the man where the textbook is. But first, why don't you try an example yourself? Here's another recording of a part of a lecture. Here we go.
Now, elephants are big, but some animals are really big. For example, the blue whale. An adult blue whale can be up to 100 feet long. 100 feet long. Now, one reason the blue whale can grow so long is because it lives in water.
What does the professor imply when he says this?
100 feet long.
How should we answer this question? That's right, we should look at the context. We see that the professor repeated this claim, so he probably thinks it's a really important one. And he emphasizes that the blue whale is really big. So it seems like the professor is implying that 100 feet long is an amazingly big size. So the answer is probably something like that. He is implying that the 100 feet long is an amazingly big size. With that recording, you'll notice the speaker's tone helped us figure out why he was saying what he said. So sometimes we can use the speaker's tone to help us figure out the answer to why is this said questions. But normally, the context provided in the recording that is played back for us will be all we need to answer this question. Notice that we've guessed the answers to each of the questions we've listened to without looking at the answer choices. But now that we've guessed our answer, we can compare them to the answer choices. Remember to follow that strategy in the TOEFL. First, guess, and then second, look at the answer choices. Alright, let's listen again to the question from earlier. This time, we'll include the answer choices.
Listen again to a part of the conversation, then answer the question. Hi, I'm looking for a textbook. For Professor Barton's class, I think it's called Principles of Calculus. It's for Math 805. Do you know where I could find it?
All the math textbooks are kept in the back of the store.
Why does the woman say this?
All the math textbooks are kept in the back of the store.
Remember, we guessed that the woman said this in order to tell the man where the textbook is. Let's compare that to the answers. Choice 1 is that she says this to explain why the bookstore doesn't sell novels. But that isn't really anything like what we guessed. Choice 2 is that she says this to apologize for a problem with the computer system. But that isn't really anything like our guess either. Choice 3 is that she says this to indicate where the man can find a textbook. That's a lot like what we guessed before we looked at the answers. So, this answer is probably right. Still, let's be sure to check every answer choice. Choice 4 is that she says this to illustrate the poor organization of the bookstore. But that isn't like what we guessed either. So this answer is wrong too. So the only answer choice that matches what we guessed is choice 3. And that's the right answer. Now, try it yourself. Here's the other question we looked at earlier, this time with the answer choices included.
Now, elephants are big, but some animals are really big. For example, the blue whale. An adult blue whale can be up to 100 feet long. 100 feet long. Now, one reason the blue whale can grow so long is because it lives in water.
What does the professor imply when he says this?
100 feet long.
Based on what we guessed earlier, which of these answers is right? I'll give you a minute to think about it. That's right, it's choice 2. The professor implies that the size of the blue whale is remarkable. Remember, as long as we use the context to make a good guess, the answer choice that's the most similar to our guess will almost always be the right one. Okay, let's review. Why is the said questions ask us for the purpose or meaning of a speaker's remark. The recordings that we need for these questions will be played back with the question, so we don't need our notes for these questions. We can figure out the answer to these questions by looking at the context. What's said just before and just after the remark. We can then use the context to make a guess about the right answer before we even look at the answer choices. Then, the answer choice that matches our guess will usually be the right one. That's all there is to it. If you want more help on the listening section, take the Complete Prep Scholar TOEFL course. It's a completely new way of approaching the TOEFL. Try it now at TOEFL.prepscholar.com. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe to get the next lesson from Prep Scholar.